Hi there, and welcome to A Journey to Milk and Honey. Thank y'all for joining me today. You know, it's funny how life works sometimes. One moment, about a year ago, I was literally walking through the fog of a shocking and unexpected sadness for months following the October 7th, 2023 massacre in Israel, barely putting one foot in front of the other. And then, out of nowhere, I literally walked over to that proverbial curveball. And that curveball was my serendipitous meeting with my neighbor, Debbie. What started as a chance meeting over, of all things, her yard signs turned into something so much more. It became one of those rare moments that I now believe that God reminded me that even in the darkest moments, there's flickers of light. Today, Debbie and I want to share the story of how we met and found connection, support, hope, and light at a time when we were both struggling with how to process the impact of October 7th. So hold tight and I'll be right back with my new friend, Debbie Berger.
My name is Liz Gabert, and my story begins in the Baptist Bible Belt of West Texas. I married a Catholic man, and together we raised 3 children internationally. Through my travels and experiences, my Jewish faith became secondary to everyday life. Now, after some incredibly powerful events that transpired recently, I'm at a place and time in my life to delve into my Jewish faith. I invite you to join me on this journey where I and an amazing array of weekly guests will enlighten you about the faith, people, and innovations that have shaped Israel and the Jewish people's rich history. Welcome to A Journey to Milk and Honey.
Hey there, just a quick reminder before we get started. If you want to connect with us, we're on all major social media platforms at JMH Podcast. And you can find us on YouTube at JMH Podcast or A Journey to Milk and Honey. You can also find us online at ajourneytomilkandhoney.com or jmhpodcast.com. Oh, and if you enjoy what we do here at A Journey to Milk and Honey, you can help support us by liking, subscribing, or leaving us reviews wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for joining me. Hey there, Debbie. How are you today?
I'm great, Liz. How are you?
I am fabulous. Thank you for joining me. And I guess I should have said, howdy, neighbor, because, and world traveler, which we're not going to get into today. I do appreciate you joining me, and I'm very excited to chat with you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All righty. So let's just begin. I would love, Debbie, for you to share your version of how we met.
Okay, of course.
Your version.
My version. Okay. This was, I believe it was in the springtime, early spring of 2024. I was working from home that day, which I rarely do. So you caught me on a good day. And I'm upstairs in my office and I heard the doorbell ring. And I'm like, okay. So I went out and there's this lovely woman scamming and
You're so kind.
in my front porch, and you introduced yourself, and you said, from my recollection, you said, I wanted to thank you so much for putting out your flags in the lawn. And you said, I was so worried over the winter when they were gone. I thought something had happened. And I relieved your concern because really it was just the snow and the plowing that really made us take them in for the winter time. And you were just so delighted to see them back out in all their glory. And you shared with me that you also had a huge Israeli flag hanging from your house, which inspired me to later put up our huge Israeli flag outside of our house.
Okay. Now, I could let you get away with this, and we'll do it in the right way. But tell me what we'll just say flags, or they were yard signs, actually, yard signs. Let's try it that way.
Yes.
What 2 yard signs did you have displayed, Debbie?
One is a yard sign that's half the American flag, half Israeli flag. And I believe it says, I stand with Israel.
I think you're right.
And the other one it's a little flag, like a garden flag.
Yes.
And it says on it, Fuk Hamas. and you can get with the Fukin. What's supposed to do is Jewish stars for the OO.
That's right. Yes. And so I was very impressed, I have to say. And it was one of those things. I walked by it. We're both walkers, but walked by it numbers of times over the winter, best I could. And I just thought, come spring, I thought to myself, I'm just going to go and knock on this lady's door. And that was our chance meeting. It was just one of those things. And the rest, as they say, is history. We're neighbors and we're on the same page when it comes to our faith. You are Jewish.
Yes.
And as well as I. And you are very supportive of Israel, as am I.
That's correct.
So there we have it. But it was just one of those things. It's so funny because I talk to people and certain people, and I go, there's so much just pain associated with October 7th. Just it's so much pain, horror. However, there is light as well.
There definitely is.
Yes. And I think our chance meeting was one of those. I doubt we'd know each other to this day.
Yeah, it definitely has brought people together in so many different levels and different ways. Exactly. And this is just one example.
All righty. So moving on. Okay. All right, Debbie. So let's get started. I wanted to start by asking you to share a little bit about yourself with our listeners.
Sure. I grew up in New York and in New York City suburbs, and I went to Jewish day school from kindergarten through 8th grade. And even in high school, I did a program called Pros Door at the Jewish Theological Seminary. So that would be one day a week after school. And then every Sunday we traveled into New York City, going to Pro Store on a little bus. So I've always been involved in the Jewish community. I was involved in youth groups. Junior high was Kadima. Then high school was USY, which was very popular back in the 80s. I was my USY president. So I feel like I have a really solid foundation for my Judaism. Am I very conservative based? My family is more on the Reformed side religiously, but I feel like my faith was always there. In college, I did a program called Sarel, Volunteers for Israel, with two of my college girlfriends. We went for a month during our winter vacation. And throughout the years, I've always traveled. I went with my family when I was 10 years old. I went in college again. After I got married, we went again. So Israel is a very important part of who I am and who the Jewish people are. And I feel a real connection there. And my job, I'm a radiologist. My job brought us up to New Hampshire back in 2003. And that was a huge culture shock.
You're telling me, bro.
Yeah, coming from the New York City area. Yeah, I'm sure from Texas, it's the same thing.
I feel you. Yeah. It's different, but I feel you.
Yeah, but we've been here for 21 years and we love it too. We have one daughter. I have a teenager. She's going to be 16 in about 2 weeks. And I
married a Jewish man.
Yeah, married a Jewish man because that was very important to me as it was to him. To have that similarity, the connection, the values. We always wanted to raise our daughter Jewish. And it's challenging in New Hampshire to do that. But I think we've done a very good job with it. She has a very strong connection to her faith.
She absolutely does. As we were talking pre-jumping on here, I see her at Chabad more than I see you.
Nor here.
But we long this. You there. It was just a joke. That was a joke. But anyway, so thank you for sharing all that. You and I have very different upbringings, no doubt about it. I'm actually jealous, by the way, of the fact that you're really solid in our faith and have been embedded. And I'm so jealous of that, I have to say. So Debbie, let's get to it here. Let me just ask you, though, I think you already explained it. So October 7th had an impact on all of us in different ways, by the way. But my question was going to be, how involved, how active had y'all, your husband, been relative to the support of Israel pre-October 7th?
Right. I would say for the support of Israel, we always tried to travel there. So we tried in that regard. We tried to go every couple of years, and we had taken our daughter twice already before October 7th. And we
Fabulous.
made a vow to each other that we would take her every 2 years. And we were actually doing very well with that until COVID happened.
Okay,
So
of
that
course.
put a little kink in it. But then I'll talk about this after. But also we have been involved in almost every synagogue in our state, being advocate for Hebrew schools that fits our daughter.
Sure.
She led the way in terms of where we were going to go to synagogue. And she's very bright, and she went through all the synagogues. She actually loved Temple Israel Portsmouth, I think, the best for her education. So we had to even trek there for 2 years every Sunday.
That's amazing. That's a bit of a track, isn't it?
It is. It is. So whatever it took, we wanted her to get the best foundation that she can get. And Jeremy is actually involved in the Jewish Federation. He is again now, but he was, 10 plus years ago, he had been involved. He was on the board back then. He helped start up the sister city relationship with one of the towns in the north, like maybe Carmel. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, I'm not certain, but he was involved in the New Hampshire sister city relationship with Israel.
Okay.
So way back in the day. This is a long time ago. And then then Ariel was born, so she took up all of our time. But now that she's older, we are starting to get back into everything and into the community. And October 7th certainly helped kickstart that.
And there you go. And so that is what I wanted to hear. And I tell you, again, I'm very jealous. Y'all have been quite involved, relatively speaking, because we have American Jews at all kinds of levels in terms of their observance, right?
Yes.
Involvement. Yes. Lord of Israel or not, all over the map. But for you all personally, I am very impressed. Overall, and again, jealous. Anyway, but so then October 7th happens, right? So y'all been pretty active even prior to. But so October 7th happens, and I just ask you, Debbie, and this is a personal question, but since feelings are such a buzzword these days, right? How we feel is such a buzzword. And I try not to go there too much, but for October 7th, feelings are important. I know how I felt, and my way I felt had to be very different, I'm guessing, not from the way you felt. So when you first heard of this massacre, and it took a little time for us to really understand, and for the world to understand what had happened there, right?
Yeah.
But walk us through how you all and during those first days.
Yeah. Obviously devastated, shocked. I happened to be working on call that Saturday with my job. I just can't stop what I'm doing. But at the same time, I felt had to know what's happening in Israel because everything was unraveling live, all online. But I think having my work really helped keep me a little bit distracted from what was happening on that Saturday. On the days that came and just the immediate aftermath of what we saw, the reaction in America, which is part of me, I was not surprised. I feel like I've always been in tune to the anti-Semitism happening in our country, but the scale of it and the organization of it is very shocking. Just also, I devastated just 2 months prior to October 7th, Ariel was in Israel. She was doing the Maccabi Games, which is the Jewish Olympics, playing basketball because basketball is her passion. And it made me think back to when she was there. She was there for about a month, and they had parties, just different scale than the Nova Festival because clearly these are high schoolers as opposed to young adults in Nova. But they had parties on the beaches. They had parties in the forest. And these parties that they had were very impressive. So to think back and think, wow, this could have been. So just to think that she was there by herself, like not by herself, but without us. It was just terrifying. And then what's happened in our country and the lack of support, I would say, for the Jewish community in our country. Forget about with the support for Israel, the lack of support was happening in our country for our college students. I think Right now, obviously, I'm a doctor and I'm a mother, and those are my two main roles. And my daughter is going to college in 3 years. So this what's happening on the college campuses is like straight up most important thing to me right now. And what's been going on is not okay. And
Okay, so Debbie, let's move ahead here because you and your family took a trip to Israel. Oh my Lord, back in December. So not too long after this horrific massacre, an organization called Ramah Israel.
yes.
And so, what I'd like in brief, really briefly here, is if you could share a little bit about that trip and with folks, because it sounds like it was awesome.
It was. I was looking for a trip to volunteer just because I felt like I was drawn to Israel. I felt like I had to go. And this was right after October 7th. I'm like, I just had to be there. And I felt like it was important to bring my family and important to bring my teenager. And not too many organizations were involving teenagers. You had to be 18 or older. But I found one, Ramah, Israel. And we actually have a connection to Ramah because Ariel had gone to their summer camps. Yeah, they're all over North America. And they also have summer camps in Israel. And she had been going since she was 8 years old. We were already connected to the organization, which is a huge plus. And it was very chaotic. I think we were maybe the second volunteer group that they took because it was so early in the war. Even the communication was very spotty at best. I found the link online to sign up. And in the end, I signed up without even and paying, without even really knowing what we were going to be doing, where we were going. I didn't have much because I think they were still working on it.
Yeah.
But I said, in faith, I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it. And luckily, I have very wonderful coworkers who I was done with my vacation for the year, and my daughter had off Christmas break, and my coworkers, without even a hesitation, said, "You go. We'll go down the forts. You can go." So we went during Christmas break, December 2023. And it was just amazing from the start. We arrived probably a few hours later, and we met the group at Pantry Packers, where we were packing up goods for the IDF soldiers. We also there's a Museum of Tolerance that just opened up in Jerusalem. And at the time in December, it was not open yet, but they were using the basement floor also for gathering supplies for the IDF soldiers. We were packing bags for them for when they left Gaza. They had clean underwear, toiletries, warm clothing because the winter was coming and it doesn't get quite as cold as it does in New Hampshire, but it can be chilly at night in Israel in the winter. There's a big problem with produce right now in Israel because a lot of the farm workers were either from Gaza, Palestinians, or they were foreign from Thailand. And a lot of the foreign workers went back home after October 7th. So a lot of the produce was literally rotting off the vines. So we actually went and we helped weed strawberry fields. So we did that for half a day, which was a lot of work. And we had 30, probably close to 30 of us for 3 hours weeding strawberry fields. And the farmer basically said it would take one of his farm workers, to do this in 1 hour.
Manual labor that many Americans are not accustomed to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we went and visited some of the communities down south. We didn't get close to Gaza at the time because it just wasn't open. We did see a group of rabbinical students from the U.S. who were putting on their bulletproof vests and helmets and going to the kibbutzim, to Berry and Kfar Aza, but we were not allowed to go there. We went to a community called Ofakim, which is not too far, but just a couple miles east of Gaza, where some of the terrorists infiltrated and terrorized people. There was a famous story about this grandma. Her name was Rachel, and she basically had maybe 3 terrorists in her home for several hours, and she baked them cookies and made them tea, and she just sobbed and tried to make them feel at home. until eventually the IDF, for, I guess her son, it was not in the IDF, they knew that the terrorists were in her house and using like hand signals, like putting three fingers up to the side of her cheek and sort of hand signal to tell the snipers where the terrorists were. And while she's standing in her kitchen, the snipers actually killed the terrorists. What? It was a crazy story. But we saw her house. Yeah, we went and we painted community centers at a local school in Ofakim. They used the basement as a bomb shelter, and it was pretty dingy. So we cleaned it all up and painted it. We also went to a Bedouin village in the south. They had a lot of people who were murdered as well. So these are Arab Israeli Bedouins. And we went to the community center and spoke with one of the young ladies that lives there. And yeah, that again, devastating.
So it sounds like it was really an amazing trip. Did you all work every day and help every day?
We did, except for Shabbat, we did. It was exhausting. It was like from morning till night. And then we do have friends and family in Israel. So at night, we, instead of going to sleep, we spent our time having dinners with our friends and family, which was really special and amazing. And it was great for Ariel to go and see. On the way to Israel in Newark Airport, she started breaking out in hives. And we thought, is she having an allergic reaction? I bought Benadryl. She took it, didn't go away. We got to Israel and it was actually getting worse. We had one of our cousins basically contact her doctor and get prescription for these hives. But it turned out as soon as Ariel went out for dinner with our cousins, the hives were gone. I think it was a psychosomatic effect. She was so worried and so concerned and so scared to be in a country at war. And then when she was there and saw that everybody's okay, her cousins are okay, it was all gone.
That is mind-blowing. And has she ever had hives before?
Nope, never.
Never.
Yeah. It was so weird. Yeah. And being in Israel, the resilience of the society there is just unbelievable because there is a war going on, but people are going about their daily lives.
Yeah.
They try to maintain as much normalcy as they can, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to begin to wrap up here, but one other thing I wanted to ask you about is your daughter is y'all have a plan to send your daughter yet again to Israel. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Ariel is scheduled to go spring semester in high school, 10th grade, to Israel for 4 months. It's a program called the Alexander Must High School. It's an American accredited high school program that has been happening in Israel since 1972. Yes, it started by a group of Jews in Miami. And I think in the 70s, it was mostly Floridians. And it's very slowly spread across the country. I had never even heard of it before. And I was very much involved in the Jewish community, but never heard of it until recently. And everybody who goes says that it is just a life-changing opportunity. She's going to be learning history live. The Jewish studies program that they do, when they learn about something, then they go and they visit the archaeological sites of where it happened.
How fabulous is that?
They're going to also do a week in Poland to visit the Holocaust sites. She's going to be learning Hebrew language. So it's just something that she's always wanted to do and has maxed out what she can do in local Hebrew schools. So she's really looking forward to learning more modern conversational Hebrew. And yeah, it's supposed to be just a great program. And we're so excited for her. And we're going to go visit her for a week while she's there. She gets a week off during Passover break. So we're going to go visit.
That's fabulous.
Amazing.
I may have to just nab her to come on to our podcast. Well, after, I think she'd do it, by the way. I think she would actually do it. Tell all about her time there, which I'm sure it's just going to be awesome. Hey, Debbie, this has just been so much fun, so interesting. And again, I have to tell you, you're amazing. You're an amazing mom. You're an amazing Jewish American, by the way. I've told people my motto is I am a proud Jewish American, not a proud American Jew. For me, personally, since October 7th, certainly is my faith, our faith, and the existence and the continuation of Israel and the Jewish people ranks number one for me.
Yep.
Yes,
Me too.
there are other issues, of course, but boy, for us,
This one has to take top issue right now.
don't you think? Don't you think? All right, I think that is a wrap, Miss Debbie Berger. Thank you so much again for jumping in with me. It's just been a pleasure.
But thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Hey, you take care of yourself.
You too.
So I hope that y'all enjoyed my chat with Debbie Berger. For me, this chance meeting was a poignant reminder of how deeply interconnected our lives can be, even with those that we don't know. Whether they are a neighbor that we've never met or standing in line at a grocery store. The reflections that Debbie shared with us about the October 7th terrorist attack in Israel highlighted the profound ripple effects of such tragedies, not just on those directly affected, but on communities worldwide. This meeting for me was a reminder that in moments of pain and shared vulnerability, it's often those unplanned, serendipitous connections that offer the most comfort and understanding. Often, it is our mutual feelings and stories that serve as a wake-up call to be present, to step outside our comfort zones, to reach out, and to find unity in shared humanity, even in the darkest of times. So I want to thank Debbie for opening up her front door to a stranger on that cold winter day 1 year ago, and for her continued support and friendship ever since. Thank you all for joining me today on A Journey to Milk and Honey. Before you go, don't forget that you can stay connected with us on social media, as we're on all major platforms at JMH Podcast, and we would love to hear from you. You can also find us on YouTube at JMH Podcast or A Journey to Milk and Honey. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications, as it really helps out our channel. And wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure to follow us there to stay updated on new episodes and to keep your journey going. If you're looking for more, you can visit us online at ajourneytomilkandhoney.com or jmhpodcast.com. Oh, and by the way, if you enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to leave a review or comment, as your feedback helps the podcast to grow and improve, and we truly value your support. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and shalom.